Hey yo, Maggie here. Sorry about the bedhead and just my general sleepy decorum. So, I have Tourette's, as anybody who follows my other blog would know. And Tourette's, to start with, is a neurological disorder. It is a tic disorder, and the specification of Tourette's is determined by it has to last for more than a year. It's chronic, essentially, lifelong in a lot of people, and you have to have one vocal tic and one physical tic, at least. That's the bare minimum. And I've talked a bit about my Tourette's on my writing blog. But one of the weird things about Tourette's that nobody really talks about is the looping effect. With tics, you get stuck in a loop sometimes where you're just twitching the same way, or I shouldn't do that because I can trigger my tics if I do ones that I have and end up stuck in a loop like I was just talking about where I can't stop. Somewhere I look like I'm having a seizure, don't I? This happens. My point was I get stuck in these loops and things. Right now, my legs are like, they're tensed up so hard they're jiggling. Like a Parkinson's sort of thing. I don't know if you can see it on screen. But with Tourette's, it has to do with the neurotransmitter dopamine, which also has to do with Parkinson's and schizophrenia, and it's one of the feel-good neurotransmitters. And what happens is it's essentially a dysregulation where the body produces too much, and it has to put it somewhere, and it ends up firing randomly and affecting the limbs and the vocal cords. And a couple forms, everybody knows about coprolalia, which is swearing. There's also copropraxia, which is things like sticking up your middle finger. Coprolalia is very rare. It's in less than 10% of people with Tourette's. I am a very interesting case because my case is quite severe, and I have every kind of tic you could possibly have, essentially. Short of, like, I'm sure some people tear off their clothes. Unfortunately, I've never done that. But I dance, I jump, I scream, I swear. And a couple other types which are the types I want to focus on right now, are echolalia and echopraxia, which are when you copy somebody else. One time, I was getting ready for a show. We were about to put on Legally Blonde, and the music director walked in, and she said, "Hello," and I said, "Hello, low, 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 hello, 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 hello," and that just went on for like 5 or 10 minutes. Because you get stuck in that loop, that echo. And echopraxia is the same, but with motion, where somebody like touches their nose, and suddenly you're touching your nose. That one is especially apparent if you put two or more people with Tourette's in the same room. They will start ticking and setting each other off. I was in class with this one girl at my performing arts school, and she also had Tourette's. and we one of my tics is that sort of thing, and one of us would start clicking, and the other would start clicking, and we'd just do that back and forth, sometimes for entire classes, or sometimes she'd start like flexing her hand, and I would start, my body would start contorting or doing some weird thing, because one of the things that happens is it's like it can be, if you remind the Tourette's that it exists, it's like when you say somebody's name and suddenly they pop around the corner and it's like, whoa, where'd you come from? Suddenly makes an appearance. I have glossolalia, which is where I talk nonsense, and my mom often sets that one off, because she thinks it's funny. And it's definitely interesting. It's essentially nonsense talking. Like, Gorone estate, to stranafia burakdesi, no hibit, yet the anoski. Yeah, see, you speak of the devil and they arrive. Paralalia? I think it's paralalia. If I'm wrong, I will write that on the screen when I post this video. It's been so long since I've talked about this. I can't believe that I might have forgotten it. So I think it's paralalia and parapraxia. Palalalia, that's what it is. It's palalalia. Palalalia and palapraxia. And that one is where you copy yourself, like what I just did, where I started ticking and it set the tick off. Or sometimes I might, do the disco, and then suddenly I keep having to do the disco over and over in a loop. And it's something, the looping, goes beyond just the obvious tics. There was a time, a couple years back, when I got sick and I just kept throwing up for days. Like, I couldn't stop. And I ended up having to go to the hospital and get an IV and some anti-nausea drugs, because I just couldn't stop throwing up even after the initial actual illness had passed, because my body got stuck on a loop where it just kept sending the signal, throw up, throw up, throw up, throw up. So that's part that signals, sometimes there is, it's not a random signal, it's a specific signal that gets sent, but then the part of the brain that's policing the shutdown mechanism, okay, we sent the signal, now stop, it's good, we've got it, just doesn't follow through sometimes. So you keep doing it over and over, even when it becomes unnecessary or a hindrance. One of the comorbid disorders with Tourette's is obsessive-compulsive disorder, where you have an intrusive thought that causes anxiety, and you obsess about it and have to do a thing to make it stop. There are people who have to go back and check their locker combination 8 times before they can get to class because the thought, what if I didn't? What if I didn't turn the lock? What if I left it open? Just won't stop. It stays. Or the one story I've heard about this one woman who every single day she would have to go back home 5 or 6 times before on her way to work because she was so anxious about whether or not she left her hairdryer on and it would burn down the house. And the only way she could make that stop was her therapist told her, bring it with you. And so she would put it in the car with her when she went to work. And any time that intrusive thought entered, she could just look over and see, no, it's with me, it's good. I don't have obsessive compulsive disorder, but I do have obsessions that loop. But without the compulsive part of the disorder, there's no way to make it stop. There's no, if I do this, it will put on the brakes. There's no brakes. It's just the roller coaster keeps looping and looping and looping in an endless circle of loops, and there's no off switch. Well, rather, there is nobody reliable at the control switch. So sometimes the passengers get on and the conductor pushes the lever and they start going, and then the conductor just waltzes off and goes to hang out with his girlfriend and smoke a doobie for an hour. And the people on the roller coaster are left to the winds of fate. I do have intrusive thoughts, anxieties, and lies that my brain tells itself. Things like nobody loves you, your boyfriend's gonna leave you, you'll never be good enough, it would be better if you died. Things that a lot of people, I won't say everyone, but a lot of people have to deal with in their life, in their day-to-day. And something I don't think even my doctors understand is that I can listen to what's going on in my head, and I know it's a lie. But knowing that it's a lie doesn't stop it from happening, and it doesn't stop my emotional response, because I'm not in the... If the brain is a train, I am not in the conductor's, in the engineer's room, whatever you call it. I'm not at the wheel, the lever, the what have you. The door is locked, and I'm pounding on the window trying to get somebody to listen to me. And nobody's listening to me because they're too busy yelling at themselves. They're on the intercom screaming at the passengers. And places, like, I will get stuck in, like, researching loops where I'm worried or concerned about a thing, like, a medical issue. And I start doing research and doing more research, and I just get more and more distraught as I come across unpleasant realities, and I can't make myself stop, because it's like it's not I could physically look away, but the part of my brain that's telling, the part of my brain that is focused on I must know more. Won't listen to the part of my brain that says we are hurting ourselves. Stop. Or I found some tweezers and I started plucking out hairs on my armpits and legs and things, because I have obsessive grooming behaviors, because part of it is because that is a symptom of anxiety, which I have, if you couldn't tell yet. And part of it is just, it's another obsession. Hygiene is very important to me. Cleanliness is very important to me. I want to be clean and pristine if I can be, which you would not think by the state of my hair, but some days I have, some days the fibromyalgia gets in the way. But on any given day, I try to be as clean as possible. I like to be clean shaven, etc. And I will sit there for hours, and just pick out the tiny hairs. And I could physically stop myself. But again, there is a frustration with, I will never be able to pluck out every single hair. I do not have the time. I have other things to do. Why am I doing this? But there is also a need to... It's like when you've been working on a school project for 6 hours and your head is pounding and your eyes hurt and your legs are all crampy, and you know that you should get up and move around and take a break and go pee and all those things, get something to eat, but you're just so focused on getting it done. You just want this paper written, and it is your first priority. And that's what happens sometimes with behaviors like the hair plucking or grooming my nails or researching things. It's just not something that anybody had ever told me about, and I don't know if there's documentation on it. I also have loops in my dreams where I will dream a dream and then dream it again, and I can do that as many as 4 times. Just dream the dream over and over. Sometimes it's the same exact dream beginning to end. Sometimes it's the same dream with small changes, or this is the path we took last time. This time let's take the other path. And I don't know if that's something... if anybody else with Tourette's has experienced that sort of stuff, let me know. Fun things you find out as you make your way through the world, I guess. We're always discovering more about ourselves.